From above, Centralia seems peaceful. Surrounded by forests, it almost feels forgotten. But deep below, a hidden fire has been burning for more than 60 years. These empty spaces were once filled with homes, families, and everyday life. Now, only a few people remain. The rest left behind, their homes and their memories. So, how did it all happen? To find the answer, we have to go back to the beginning. Nearly 2 centuries ago, this place looked nothing like it does today. Long before a town stood here, these forests were home to wildlife, flowing rivers, and endless silence. Hidden beneath these hills lay one of America's richest anthracite coal deposits, still waiting to be discovered. For millions of years, nature had protected this hidden resource, untouched by industry and unseen by the world. Soon, that hidden coal would change this quiet wilderness forever and give birth to a town called Centralia. For years, these hills hid a resource that few people truly understood. That black stone would soon become one of Pennsylvania's greatest treasures. News of the discovery spread, drawing more explorers into these quiet mountains. Before long, the wilderness was no longer just a forest, it had become a place of opportunity. Soon, workers would arrive, and these silent hills would begin their greatest transformation. As more workers arrived, the wilderness slowly began to change. Trees were cleared, and the first buildings began to rise. What had been untouched land was becoming a place where families could build a future. Before long, roads connected the homes, workshops appeared, and a small community began to grow. The wilderness was fading, and in its place, a new town was beginning to take shape. As the settlement grew, so did the demand for coal. Soon, miners began carving deep tunnels beneath these hills. Day after day, coal left these mountains, carrying the town's future with it. Before long, coal was creating jobs, attracting new families, and transforming the community. Coal had given this town a purpose, and Centralia's greatest years were only beginning. With coal came something even greater, a thriving community full of life. Every single morning, the mines came alive, and so did the entire town. Life followed the rhythm of coal, hard work below, and loving families above. Every day, deep beneath these hills, miners worked tirelessly for the town above. For generations, this wasn't just a mining town, it was truly home. No one imagined the very coal that built Centralia would one day threaten everything they loved. Year after year, more families chose to build their lives in Centralia. With every new home, the town grew stronger and more connected. As trade expanded, Centralia became busier with every passing season. Churches welcomed new families, while schools prepared the town's future. Centralia was no longer just a mining camp, it was becoming a town built to last. As coal production grew, one challenge became impossible to ignore: moving it beyond the valley. The answer arrived on steel rails, connecting Centralia to a much larger world. For the first time, Centralia's coal could travel farther, faster, and in far greater quantities. The railroad transformed more than trade, it transformed the town itself. With every departing train, Centralia's future seemed brighter than ever. By the 1880s, demand for anthracite coal was rising across America. Day after day, trains carried Centralia's coal to growing cities across the country. As production increased, the mines grew deeper, and the work became even harder. Long hours underground demanded strength, skill, and constant determination. By the close of the century, coal had become the foundation of Centralia's success. Coal brought people here, but it was the community that made them stay. Neighbors looked after one another, sharing both hard work and everyday moments. Every shop, every church, and every home became part of the town's identity. As the years passed, new traditions quietly became part of everyday life. By now, Centralia had become far more than a mining town, it had become home. Nearly 60 years had passed, and Centralia had grown into a town few could have imagined. Coal continued to leave the valley, carrying Centralia's name far beyond Pennsylvania. New ideas, new businesses, and new opportunities were quietly shaping everyday life. Looking around, there was every reason to believe the best years were still ahead. As one century quietly came to an end, the people of Centralia looked toward tomorrow, never knowing how much their future would change. As the 20th century quietly began, Centralia stepped forward with confidence, ready for a brand new chapter. The railroads never rested, carrying coal, supplies, and new opportunities across the region every single day. New businesses flourished, bringing fresh ideas, skilled workers, and greater prosperity to the growing town. With every passing year, Centralia looked stronger, busier, and more connected than ever before. For the people who lived here, the future seemed brighter, more secure, and full of endless possibilities. Beneath the quiet streets, an underground world continued to grow deeper every single year. Hundreds of tunnels stretched beneath the hills, linking one coal seam to another. Fresh air had to reach every tunnel, keeping thousands of feet of underground passages alive every single day. Above ground, life carried on as always, unaware of how much the town had expanded below. No one could see it, but beneath Centralia, a hidden world had already taken shape. Each new morning began with familiar routines, as the town quietly came to life, one day at a time. The town's marketplace welcomed familiar faces, where every conversation strengthened the community, day after day. Before reaching distant cities, every load of coal was carefully sorted, prepared, and made ready for the journey ahead. Keeping the town connected required constant effort, long after every train had passed. By day or by night, Centralia never truly stood still, because the mines never truly slept. Before sunrise each morning, hundreds of miners stepped beneath the mountain, beginning another demanding day below the earth. A massive steel cage carried each crew deep underground, linking the busy surface to a hidden world far below. Powerful steam boilers worked without rest, producing the energy that kept the entire mining operation moving every single day. Above the shafts, thousands of tons of anthracite were carefully prepared before beginning their journey across America. For the people of Centralia, mining had become more than work, it had become the heartbeat of an entire town and its future. By the mid-1920s, Centralia had become one of Pennsylvania's well-established mining communities, built for the future. Modern equipment gradually changed the mines, making every shift more organized and far more efficient. Rail lines carried more than coal, they connected Centralia with industries across an expanding nation. Every successful shipment strengthened the town's economy and brought new confidence to the families who lived here. Few could imagine that beneath this confident town, history was quietly preparing a very different future. Before each new section was opened, survey teams carefully measured the underground, one line at a time. Special rescue crews trained every week, preparing for emergencies they hoped would never come. Above ground, inspectors studied every report, searching for small problems before they became larger ones. Engineers regularly examined the coal itself, studying every layer, before new mining could safely continue. To most people, these careful routines were simply part of everyday work, helping the town move forward with quiet confidence. As the 1930s began, uncertainty slowly reached Centralia, even as daily life continued almost unchanged. The mine still produced coal, but every shipment was watched more carefully than ever before. Every decision mattered now, from the mining office to the rail lines that carried each load away. Families learned to make every dollar count, repairing what they had and standing together through uncertain times. Even as the world around them continued to change, the people of Centralia refused to give up, believing better days would come again. As war spread across the world, the demand for anthracite coal quickly began to rise, once again. Day and night, Centralia's mines worked harder than ever, supplying the energy that kept America moving. Every departing train carried more than coal, it carried the strength of a town supporting a nation at war. Nothing was allowed to go to waste. Every shipment, every machine, and every ton of coal mattered more than ever before. When peace finally returned, Centralia had done its part, and the town looked toward a hopeful future once again. With the war finally behind them, Centralia welcomed a new chapter, filled with confidence and fresh beginnings. New businesses opened their doors, bringing fresh opportunities and new energy to the town. Modern technology gradually reached the mines, improving efficiency, while preserving the town's proud mining tradition. New neighborhoods continued to grow as families looked toward the future, with quiet optimism once again. For many residents, it seemed the town's brightest days were still waiting, just ahead. By the 1950s, Centralia had reached its most confident years, with busy streets, growing neighborhoods, and steady work. The mine still supported countless families, even as some of the oldest workings quietly slipped into history. As mining methods evolved, older underground passages were carefully recorded, then gradually left behind. As new mining areas expanded, many older sections were carefully sealed, becoming part of the town's forgotten past. To the people above, Centralia still promised a bright future, unaware that its greatest challenge had already been quietly written beneath their feet. By the late 1950s, many older mine areas were no longer in regular use, and the town slowly changed with them. Some abandoned spaces found new purposes, serving the growing needs of the community above. To most residents, it seemed like another ordinary improvement, with little reason for concern. Routine maintenance continued, just as it had for years, and life across Centralia carried on. No one imagined that one ordinary decision would soon change Centralia forever. In May 1962, Centralia prepared for its annual Memorial Day celebrations, just as it had many times before. As part of the preparations, the nearby landfill was scheduled for its routine cleanup, a familiar yearly task. Cleaning the landfill by controlled burning had become a practice used in previous years, without major concern. The cleanup burn appeared routine, and by evening, the work seemed complete. But beneath the surface, unnoticed by everyone, the fire is believed to have reached the abandoned coal seams, where a far greater disaster quietly began. Days passed, but the landfill refused to cool, raising the first quiet questions. Soon, smoke appeared again, even after repeated inspections. Engineers were called to find where the heat was coming from. The results revealed underground heat, far below the surface, where no fire should have remained. For the first time, officials realized this was no ordinary landfill fire. The investigation soon moved underground, searching for the source of the hidden heat. Boreholes were drilled, allowing investigators to measure temperatures deep below the ground. The deeper they measured, the clearer the pattern became. The heat was not isolated, it appeared to spread through abandoned coal workings. The discovery changed everything. What seemed small above ground was far larger below. Once the fire was confirmed, crews moved in quickly, hoping to stop it before it spread. Deep trenches were planned to cut the fire off from untouched coal seams. For a moment, it seemed the plan might actually work. But new heat readings appeared beyond the excavation, where no one expected them. The fire had already found another path, hidden inside the abandoned mine network. Weeks turned into months, but the underground heat refused to disappear. Soon, more warm spots appeared, far beyond the original landfill. The fire was spreading silently through abandoned coal seams, hidden beneath the hills. Each new discovery made the underground fire harder to predict. What began beneath one landfill was becoming a problem far beyond its borders. The fire remained hidden underground, but its effects were beginning to reach the surface. The underground fire kept moving, and the first signs began appearing near people's homes. Soon, unusual gas readings forced investigators to inspect residential neighborhoods. More neighborhoods were tested as the underground fire continued to move. The fire was no longer just underground, it had become part of everyday life above it. Crews launched new efforts, hoping to bury the fire beneath thousands of tons of earth. Water was forced underground in another attempt to cool the burning coal. New barriers were built to block the fire from reaching more coal seams. For a short time, everything appeared quiet until the fire returned. Again and again, the fire escaped, proving it could not be contained. Despite every warning, life in Centralia continued almost as normal. Families carried on with daily life, unaware how far the fire had already spread. Some backyards began changing in ways no one could easily explain. Even familiar places slowly began showing signs that something was terribly wrong. Centralia still looked peaceful, but beneath every quiet street, the fire kept moving. As the years passed, the first visible scars began appearing across Centralia. Around some homes, the ground itself no longer looked the same. Even the oldest places could no longer escape the changes below. The warning signs were becoming harder for anyone to ignore. What had once been isolated was now quietly spreading beneath nearly every part of the town. On the morning of February 14, 1981, Centralia appeared as quiet as ever. Only a few unusual signs hinted that something dangerous was hidden below. Then, without warning, the ground suddenly began to fail. Within seconds, the collapse grew larger, sending shock through the neighborhood. The rescue began immediately, as every second became critical.
We need more slack on the right.
Emergency crews rushed to the scene, as every second became a race against time.
Watch that edge.
Police secured the area, while investigators tried to understand what had just happened. For local residents, the disaster was no longer a warning, it had become reality. Within hours, the story spread far beyond Centralia, drawing national attention.
Good evening. I'm reporting
The person
live
rescued from that collapse was 12-year-old Todd Domboski. His survival became one of the strongest warnings that the fire beneath Centralia could no longer be ignored. After the Sinkhole incident, officials reached a painful conclusion. Centralia could no longer be considered safe. Families were offered a choice: leave their homes, or continue living above the fire. Across the town, families gathered together to decide whether it was finally time to leave. One by one, homes filled with memories began preparing for goodbye. Soon, the streets filled with moving trucks, carrying away generations of life. With every truck that left, Centralia grew quieter, one family at a time. For years, Route 61 carried travelers through Centralia like any other American highway. But beneath the asphalt, the underground fire never stopped moving. Engineers soon realized the damage below could no longer be repaired. In 1993, the highway was permanently closed, ending a route that thousands once traveled. Today, nature is slowly reclaiming the road, but the fire beneath it still burns. After Route 61 closed, reaching Centralia became harder with every passing year. As fewer people arrived, local businesses quietly began closing, one after another. Neighborhoods grew quieter as lifelong friends slowly disappeared from the streets. One by one, the families who had built Centralia finally began saying goodbye. The underground fire didn't destroy Centralia overnight, it slowly took away the people who gave the town its life. The roads remained, but the people were long gone. Some homes waited for families who never returned. The classrooms stayed, but the voices slowly disappeared. Even the church was left behind, with only silence. Centralia disappeared, but beneath the silence, the fire still lives.